Welcome everyone to the District 14 Contest Teams Training, The Importance of Dodging Contest Gotchas. My name is Linda Rogers, and I'm the District 14 Contest Chair this year. Other members of the team, J.D. Dirkschneider, Laura Olson, Joanne Sheets, Trina Mackey, and Debbie Thompson. On behalf of the team, we are thrilled that you are here today for this gotcha training. As a reminder, we do have a District 14 photo and video release statement. I'm not going to read it in its full. I do want to tell you today's event is being recorded and it will be placed on the District 14 Training's YouTube channel afterwards. So if you don't want to be viewed on the channel, then please keep your video turned off and rename yourself. As a reminder, as we talk about our Zoom protocol for meetings of this type, we want to make sure that we keep our audio muted unless we are speaking, that we leave our video on so we can see your faces as we train. You can use your side-by-side view since we will be showing PowerPoint, and you can see PowerPoint and people together. And then also chat is on, so you can chat with everyone or just chat privately. I want to quickly remind us of our speech contest deadlines. We have the international speech coming up. This contest starts in January, where clubs identify their contestants. In February, the areas will have their contests. In March, the division contest. And then in April, on the 15th, at the annual District 14 conference, there will be the international speech contest for the district level. The Table Topics district level contest will be the day before on April the 14th. As with the Table Topics contest, the clubs can choose which way they want to hold their contest. They could do it in person or online or hybrid, but area and division contests must be held online, and our district contest will be hybrid. Some people will be there in person, some people will be online. We ask that you put any questions that you have in chat. There will also be a Q&A session towards the end of this training. We're going to get started with some polls first, and I call on Toastmaster Debbie Thompson to lead us through that. Debbie?
Thank you, Linda. I'm going to launch the first poll. How do you think your club area division table topics contest went this quarter? Perfect. Well, very well, really well. A few glitches, but we were able to adjust. The whole event was rather awkward or not well at all. And so we can't tell who answers, but we really want you to give us the truth. The whole truth and nothing but the truth. Here we go. All right. We've had several people answer, so let me end the poll and share with you. So the results of this poll were, we had a few glitches, but we were able to adjust. Very good. So we did have one awkward, one perfect, and one went really well. All right. We have another poll now. Did you watch any of the contest training videos on the District 14 Training's YouTube channel before holding your table topics contest this quarter? So please answer this honestly for us. Yes, I watched them all. Yes, I watched some of them. I meant to watch them, or no, I did not watch any of the training videos. Let me launch that real quick. If you would please answer that. All right, so let me end this poll and share the results with you. Most people watched some of them. We did have a few watch them all. Very good. One of you meant to, and two people said no, they didn't watch any of the training videos. All right, well, thank you for being honest. And then our third poll, going forward, when preparing for the next contest, do you plan to watch any of the contest training videos on the District 14 Training YouTube channel? Yes, no, I hope so, probably not. All right, I'm going to give you a second. right, let me end the poll, and great news, everyone is preparing to watch the videos. Very good. Thank you. Thank you. And now I'll turn it over to Joanne Sheets.
Thank you, Debbie. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Some clubs, areas, and divisions have held outstanding contests. However, let's not ignore the elephant that sits in the corner of the room. The first elephant may be that you did not read the speech contest rulebook. That second elephant that's peeping around the corner might be that no one watched the contest training videos. Another elephant may be that we treated the contests like they were club meetings. A fourth elephant may be not planning properly for the contest. And that last elephant is that people don't know what they don't know. I want to remind us all, use your resources, the speech contest rulebook and the contest training videos. They're chock full of valuable information. Remember that we are holding official Toastmasters contest. Therefore, it is not our usual meeting. Finally, we don't know what we don't know, but using our resources in careful and meticulous planning, this elephant must leave the room. Additionally, in a Zoom hybrid environment, it is important to practice, practice, practice. We are leaders in Toastmasters, so set the bar high. Become knowledgeable about contest rules and procedures. Have strong contests, not ones that just limp along. I will now return control to Debbie. Debbie, take it away.
Thank you, Joanne. So you may be thinking, why should our clubs have contests in the first place? They are a lot of trouble. They take time, they take planning, and it's very important that we do things correctly. So why should we have a contest? Let's take a look. The first reason we should have a contest is that a contest can attract interest in your club and create buzz. This is a quote directly from Toastmasters International. So create buzz around your club and your best speakers. Next. Second, you may the club have a contest because they can demonstrate the contest format to members, especially to contestants. This is one of the ones that I think is the most important, because if your club has a contest, then the contestant who is competing will know the format. And that is just one less thing that they have to worry about. It's nerve-wracking enough to participate in a contest. But if you know what to expect at the next level and the next level, I think it's so much easier for you. Next. One of the things by having a club contest is that you gain skills for your members. They can be contest officials. Then they can go on to help with other contests, perhaps at the area, division, or even district level. So it does give your members skills. The next thing that we want to take a look at is really you're showcasing your members' speaking skills. So if you have a contest, there's a little bit of a friendly competition there. And so you can really showcase the skills that your members have gotten over time. And finally, make sure if someone is a contest chair for your club that they get credit in a higher level pathways project. You are leading a team, you are doing an event, and make sure that you get credit. Next slide. So let's look at a few of the contest considerations for clubs. The first thing is the contest rulebook says, and I quote, a club can select their contestant by whatever means the club's desire. That means you can roll the dice, you can draw straws, you can volunteer someone. as long as they agree with you. But you can choose them by whatever means you desire. However, if you do have a contest, and it needs to be an official contest with the official forms, the official rules, the official format. And I had a club one time that had a contest with one contestant and he didn't meet time qualifications. So they wanted to know, can I just send somebody else? I said, no, you've had a contest. You have to abide by the rules. Next slide. So one of the important things is when you do a contest, what club officials you need. And so we will be sharing this form with you, and it shows you which officials you will need. But I wanted to pay special attention to the judges and to the ballot counter. So Linda, next. All right, at the club level, it says you need 5 voting judges where practical. But I would advise clubs and areas and anyone who is having a contest, it is not a problem to have more judges than you need. If you have a contest with a very few number of judges and something technical happens, you could be in a situation where just one person is picking your winner, and you don't want to do that. So the more judges you have, the better you are to leave behind those biases by any personal biases that a judge has. You have more judges to be able to do that. And then finally, the rule book changed recently where a club only needs to have 2 ballot counters, not 3. You have to have 3 at the district level, but at club level, you only need 2. So it is very important that you try to have as many of these officials as possible. Next. One of the things about eligibility, won't spend a lot of time on this, but it is that you are a paid member with dues at world headquarters and that you are in a club with good standing. And that means you have at least 8 members. Next. There is an additional requirement for the International Speech Contest, and that's one reason we wanted to mention it tonight, is that if you have someone who wants to be in the speech contest, they do have to have either pathways level 1 and 2 in any path or be a DTM. And so if you have a contestant that hasn't quite met their pathways levels, you still have time to get that done, but you need to come up with a plan so that they can get all of the speeches that they need and that are required before the contest in January. Next slide. Finally, we just wanted to mention that if you're a member of multiple clubs, you can be a contestant in any club where you meet the requirements. However, once you get to the area level, even if you're in 2 different districts, you can only be in 1 area contest. And so I'd like to introduce Linda now to go over contest gotchas. Linda?
Let's talk about training gotcha, trying to do the PowerPoint and get your cursor in the right spot at the right time too. Contest gotchas. We know they occur. Many contests run very smoothly, but some contests have those little mishaps because we weren't quite prepared, or even because we did not know the rules and procedures around having contests. So let's talk about what some of those things are. One of the things that we've done today is to divide our contest into 7 parts. And we're going to go through each part and talk about the type of gotchas that can occur each time. The first time for a gotcha, for our first part, is the planning, the briefings, and the practices. As with any event, we need to plan and we need to brief people for what they're supposed to do, and we really need to practice. When we talk about planning, do not be an ostrich with your head stuck in the sand. You need to not think that things are just going to come together organically. You need to understand the contest rules and procedures. You need to know what roles need to be filled and how many people you need in each role. You need to start early to fill those contest roles because people are not going to line up your door to volunteer. I've never had anyone do that where I said, I have more volunteers than I have roles. Thank you so much. There might be a few who say, I would like to help. But most of the time, you're going to need to go find them yourself. You're going to send out that blanket email. You're going to make that blanket announcement. And then you're going to need to start having one-on-one conversations with people to fill your roles. Make sure you do not ask people who have no experience to fill major roles. I would never ask, for instance, someone to be a contest master if they have never successfully done the role of Toastmaster in a club meeting. Do not ask someone who doesn't have the proper technology to fill a technical role. Someone who's going to be attending the contest on a cell phone should not be a chat master. Make sure you have clear lines of communication and responsibility during your planning time. Don't have too many cooks, but don't have just non-cooks in your planning team either. Make sure that you have clear lines of communication and responsibility. And always, always, always have backups. Someone will drop out at the last minute and you need a backup. Even more stars and more kudos if your backup can be a judge. Now, planning resources. The one on the left has already been shown to you by Debbie Thompson, something that identifies how many people you need in each of those roles, and you can fill in the names. The one on the right is something that I've put together, but Debbie will be dropping both of these in chat. And it also includes the Zoom Master responsibilities on the list on the right, but use these resources to help you plan. Once you have done your planning, you also need to have your briefings. You need to let people know what to do. Do not assume that everyone knows what to do or just think they can figure it out on their own. You need to brief your judges, your ballot counters, your timers, your contestants, your sergeant at arms, and you need to brief your Zoom team. Who's going to spotlight? Who's going to handle your breakout rooms? Who's going to be doing admittance and sniping for microphones, etc. You need to have carefully defined responsibilities for each person. And you need to talk about these in a briefing with everyone. Make sure you have a specific person or persons responsible for the communications around your briefings. Don't have 4 different people talk with 8 different people to show up at the same time. It's not going to work very well. Someone is not going to get the news. And finally, make sure you know what the role responsibilities are as defined in the contest rulebook. Then we come to our practice, our third part in getting ready for a contest. And some people think there's no need to have a practice because everybody's really knowledgeable and we're just fine in a club meeting in person. But when you're talking about a practice for a contest, you really need to have it. I think it's similar to if you play a musical instrument and you decide to have a concert with some friends and you all get the music ahead of time and you kind of talk about it, what you want to do, but you never get together to actually practice the music. How well is that concert going to go when you show up 5 minutes before you go on stage and you haven't practiced as a group? It does not go very well at all. Do not be too timid to correct things during a practice. I have been known for saying during the practices when I was a division director, stop, go back 3 spots, let's run this part through again because we need to make it smoother. At the same time, do not gloss over the major details. If your Zoom master is not really comfortable with breakout rooms, you practice those during your practice with everyone, because that is a really important part of doing a contest. And finally, make sure you share all the pertinent information with everyone, not only your Zoom masters, but everyone. Make sure that someone has that PowerPoint file and knows that they're supposed to be advancing the slides. Make sure that they know who the winners are so that they can spotlight them at the right time. You need to have the communication with everybody concerned. I now pass control over to Toastmaster Joanne Sheets, who will talk about just before the contest starts. Joanne?
Thank you, Linda. What happens before the contest starts? That's a great question. Many of you have probably heard the quote by Benjamin Franklin, failing to plan is planning to fail. The 30 minutes prior to the start of your contest are no doubt the busiest, and I want to share some preparation tips that will help you have a successful contest. It starts with having a waiting room, and you may ask yourself, well, why is that so important? Because it allows your team to continue asking or responding to any last-minute questions, technology checks, confirming all your judges are renamed, and any other last-minute issues before the contest opens. I would recommend having someone assigned to post messages in the chat to those in the waiting room, welcoming them to your speech contest and letting them know when they will be admitted to the main room. Overall, it just avoids the congestion and confusion that we see on the right side of our screen tonight. Next, it is important to allow your chief judge or designee time to review the speaker and judges' eligibility forms prior to the contest. To avoid a last-minute rush to review, it is a best practice to request that those forms are returned a few days prior to the contest. It puts the chief judge in an awkward position to have to notify someone that they're not eligible minutes before a contest to participate. And it may not allow them adequate time to explain to the person why they are ineligible. It is a best practice to have those forms no later than your contest practice to create a positive experience for both the chief judge and the contestants. You don't want your contestants to walk away feeling like it was not fair. We know that it takes a lot of volunteers to put on a successful speech contest, and I know how much each of you appreciate them. Therefore, it's important to ensure that you have a walkthrough of your contest, which will be covered later on in this presentation. You want to make sure that the contestants, judges, timers, ballot counters, sergeant at arms, and all other participants know exactly what their role is and what is expected of them. Do I go to a breakout room? If so, when do I go? Even the most seasoned contest participants should attend your walkthrough to have a smooth contest. Breakout rooms are an important tool of a contest. They're used for briefings, to sequester speech contestants as they wait until their time to speak, such as in the table topics speech contest, and for the chief judges and ballot counters to tabulate the results of the contest. Not having appropriately named breakout rooms or knowing who is to be moved where and when can result in a delay in your contest. The chief judge must communicate with the Zoom master to inform them that all ballots have been received and the ballot counters and chief judge are ready to be moved to the breakout rooms. Practicing moving people to breakout rooms and returning them to the main room during your practice will help with the fluidity of your contest. Per the Toastmasters online speech contest best practices, judges and ballot counters should remain anonymous. You may choose to have them rename themselves as Judge 1, Judge 2, Judge 3, and so forth, or have them to choose another name. And I want to add a point here. Don't let it be something like Donald Duck or Daffy or Bugs Bunny. Let it be a real name, just not their official name. It's imperative that the chief judge and the Zoom master know how each judge is named to ensure that they can quickly identify them and then move them to breakout rooms when needed. For example, in the case of a protest, the chief judge and the judges need to go to a breakout room. Also, please have them remove their picture and replace it with a generic image on Zoom. As with any Toastmasters event, you want your logistics manager to have a mic sniper. This person can mute people to eliminate any background noise during your contest. During the opening of your event, your sergeant at arms should remind people to mute themselves and turn off their videos when moving around so that there are no distractions. And finally, let's face it, whenever we are having a speech contest, whether it be in person or online, we have to be prepared for Mr. Murphy's Law. What can go wrong will go wrong. To pay a visit to our event, having an experienced Zoom master will be your best friend during your online speech contest. You must always anticipate technology issues, and having an experienced Zoom master can help to hide some of those issues. I want to pass it on now to Trina Mackey. Trina.
Thank you, Joanne. Now let's talk about admitting your audience at your speech contest and through introduction of your contest master. A great way to set the stage for your contest is to be prepared to open the waiting room to your audience 5 to 10 minutes before your contest starts. The audience should be muted when entering the waiting room. There should be calm and a warm welcome. There should not be any confusion or any last-minute prep visible to your audience. Just something to confirm that they are in the proper place. You can simply have a PowerPoint slide or a voice announcement. Other than a welcoming slide, the only other thing you need, this needs to be a recording statement, just so people have more time to absorb the information. As your contest begins, next slide, please. Not starting on time. Obviously, we are Toastmasters and we start on time. No organized opening statement. A deliberate opening is needed to get the event started. It doesn't need to be anything complicated, but simply needs to clearly indicate that the event is starting. Share an incorrect recording statement. Turns out that there is a specific statement to be used for speech contests at the area, division, and district levels. The statement that is shown to the right of your screen is actually the statement that can be found in the online and hybrid speech contest best practices document. Not acknowledging leadership. It is always good to look to the larger picture. If at an area or division contest, mention the names of the area directors and the district director. You may also want to mention your district trio. If at the district level, definitely mention your trio. It's just good to see the larger picture in terms of your leadership. Not reviewing housekeeping rules. This is very important. Make sure you review with the audience to turn off their mic and to make sure that they are muted. Again, you can have that video sniper to go in and mute anyone who may not be muted. Not having coordinating statements with your contest master. Make sure there's an understanding in terms of your contest rules and your programs. Which one of you will go over the contest rules and which one will show the agenda. Point out that the agenda needs not to mention anything about the contestants other than their name. No awards, no club affiliation, or no area or division affiliation is needed. I will now turn control over to Toastmaster Debbie.
Thank you, Trina. Let the games begin. It's time for our contest to start. All right. We're going to talk about some things around the contest master, around the Zoom team, and a couple of miscellaneous things we want to talk about. First, the gotcha situation is not introducing the contestants correctly. rule book tells us exactly how to introduce our speakers, and the international speech contest is coming up, so I wanted to include that here. It's name, speech title, and name. So notice that the rule book specifically tells us how to introduce all of our contestants in whatever contest we are doing. Next gotcha. Not knowing who the contestants are, their speaking order, nor their speech titles, and not being able to pronounce their names. The rule book tells us very specifically that during the contestant briefing, this is the time to make sure that you know how to pronounce the speakers' names, the contestants' names, and make sure you know how to pronounce their title, their speech titles. I've seen some that are a little bit difficult, but this is a time during the contestant briefing when you draw for position and when you check the titles and the pronunciation. Here's another gotcha. Talking too much during the contest or making comments about the speaker or speech. And this is one thing that Joanne pointed out. This is not a regular club meeting. We love during a club meeting to talk and to encourage our speakers and to do all of those things and to chat away. But during a contest, this is something where we need to be very careful not to give any preliminary remarks before or after the speakers. We don't say anything like, great job, excellent speech. Those are things that might be seen to influence the judges. So you do not want to say anything after a speaker or anything prior to preliminary remarks before you introduce the speaker. It does say that you can open the contest with a brief introduction, get people excited. But once you start that contest, you put on your poker face and you don't say anything else about the contestants. All right. One other gotcha. Informing the audience too little or too much. The rule book specifically tells us what we need to tell the audience. So don't feel like you have to totally brief the audience. You have briefed the judges, you have briefed the contestants. There are some things you may want to tell the audience, but you don't have to brief them. They don't know, they don't need to know about timing, for instance. They don't need to know a lot of those other things. These are the things that the rule book says you need to let them know. The next gotcha. Judges still completing battles when the contest master starts the interviews. And so the judges' code of ethics says they will not they will consciously avoid bias. And a lot of our judges have personal bias. We can't help that. But we want to make sure that we don't say anything about how long you've been a Toastmaster, what your club is, what your distinction is. And a lot of times, if the judges are still marking their ballots in the contest room before and the interviews start, you may say things like that. You ask how long you've been a Toastmaster, what your distinction is, all those things. So you don't want the judges to be able to hear any of that. One of the recommendations, or one of the things we've seen that's very successful, is that the judges are moved into the breakout rooms along with the chief judge and the ballot counters. And that actually does two things for you. That gets the judges out of the room so you can confidently start interviewing your contestants without a lot of delay. It also gives your chief judge an opportunity to make sure that there are no technical issues with your judges sending their ballots in, or someone's ballot has not been received. You can check all of that. Once you have the judge's ballot, they can leave the breakout room and you're good to go. Another gotcha is the table topic question is presented a little bit differently to the contestants. You need to make sure that contestants get exactly the same question. They have exactly the same topic. So if you need to write it down, so you say it exactly the same way to all of your contestants, that is highly, highly recommended by the rule book. You don't want to paraphrase so that you might get a different question answered for the contestants. The next gotcha is the contestant is not asked to see if he can see the timer, allowed to pin the timer, or not asked if ready. So I saw a really good contest recently where each contestant was asked to say a few words so that the audio and video could be checked. Every contestant was asked the question in exactly the same way. And you will also want to make sure that the contestant can see the timer. So you can do all of that before you introduce them, just to make sure you don't have problems later on where perhaps you can't hear them or you couldn't see them very well. That is in the rule book. That is in the best practice online rule book. It's not in the specific rule book, but the best practice is something that gives us online recommendations and rules. So you want to make sure that you read that as well. Another gotcha is talking during the moment of silence, not asking for 1 minute between contestants, or asking judges if they need more time, or asking for 2 minutes after the last contestant. I had a fairly new Toastmaster who was doing the contest master for the first time. They thought they had to entertain the audience during the moment of silence. And so we had to let them know, Chief Judge let them know very quickly, it's the moment of silence for a reason. That's exactly what it is. You need to be quiet. The other thing we do very well, I think, is we ask for 1 minute between contestants so we can make sure that the judges have some time to think, and it is total silence. But one thing I think we don't necessarily do very well is the rule book specifically says the contest chair will ask for silence until the ballot counters have collected all the ballots. That way, you don't have to ask the judges to raise their hands and tell you they need more time. We don't want to do that. We want to keep them anonymous. It also does not say anything about a time limit. It doesn't say 2 minutes. It doesn't say 5. It says remain silent until all of the ballot counters have collected the ballots. Another gotcha is the audience keeps audio or video on. This is something that came out in the best practice recommendations and rule book. And it does say that, audience members keep their webcams turned off and microphones muted during the contest, especially during the speeches and the minute of silence. It also says that can affect internet bandwidth. And so that is one of the reasons that Toastmasters recommends that you have the videos off. Another gotcha, the Zoom masters aren't exactly sure how to move people in and out of breakout rooms smoothly. They need to understand in a table topics and evaluation contest that they need to move the contestants smoothly. They need to understand at the end of the contest, they need to move the ballot counters and the chief judge and the judges, if you're using that route, to the breakout rooms. And you need to know how to do this in case of a protest. You need the voting judges and the chief judge to move into the into the breakout room. But you not only need to know how to do that smoothly, but you need to know who you are going to move whenever you have the need for a breakout room. Excuse me. Another gotcha. The judge has the video off, but the profile photo is showing. This is something that it does say all judges will be anonymous in the rule book. And then best practice says, as I think Joanne mentioned, you can name your judges, Judge 1, Judge 2, Judge 3, Judge Ruth, Judge Ginsburg, whatever. That can help the Zoom master know exactly who to move if they need to move the judges. But that method also lets them turn their video off the entire time, and they are kept from anyone knowing who they are. If you Google how to hide your profile image, then you will get lots of answers on how to do that. There's another gotcha, not spotlighting the contestant during the contest. This is important because when we spotlight someone, it makes sure and it ensures that our audience sees that contestant, and makes it a lot less distracting when you can spotlight the contestant and make sure that they're the ones that the audience is seeing at that time. Which leads us into another best practice, and that is, you don't want, this is a gotcha, that the timer is actually distracting the audience. It is a practice to spotlight the timer as well. But when you spotlight the timer and the timer is moving around or agreeing with the speaker or doing anything like that that's distracting or might be seen to influence the judges, you want to make sure that your timer as a recommendation shows the timer background so that that is not distracting at all. And then the red, yellow, green can be seen very effectively. This is a best practice. It says you may want to have the timer move out of the frame so it can't be seen, or you can have them cover their camera. They do have to have video on, but if they cover their camera, they cannot be seen. Another gotcha is comments by anyone about the contestants made during the contest. This is something that's very important because you don't want chat to be going during the contest. That's like somebody in Zoom, to me, somebody saying something as chat is like standing on the stage with a microphone and saying something, because a little light comes on to tell us there's a chat. It can be very distracting, but it also can be seen to influence the judges. If someone comes on and says for somebody in their club who just gave a speech, oh, that was great, that was excellent. You don't want to do anything like that in chat, because that shows could be shown as influencing the judges. And so it very specifically in the best practices says that we need to make sure we don't use emojis, we don't use reaction buttons, we don't use chat during the speeches or during the moment of silence. And so you want to make sure that you let the audience know those rules, or that you disable chat during the contest. Okay. The final one is not having a plan or communication method for technical difficulties. The best practice rule book says specifically, make sure that you always have a communication method in case something goes wrong, in case you have technical difficulties. And I'm not going to read this entire section, but in the best practice manual, which I will share in just a minute, it has a whole page of things that you might want to consider if you have any kind of technical difficulties. It just allows you to think about these things ahead of time and make sure that by thinking about it ahead, you can deal with things that come up. Of course, you can't know the answer to everything, but this will help you with some of those gotchas for technical difficulty. All right, at this point, I would like to turn it over to Joanne again to talk about contest interviews.
Thank you, Debbie. Let's talk about a few gotchas that get you during the contestant interviews. One gotcha is not spotlighting contestants during their interview. Spotlighting allows the audience to easily see the contestant while he or she is speaking. Another gotcha is asking inappropriate or lame questions. It is recommended that the contest master prepare the interview questions before the contest. Use the information on the contestant's profile to develop meaningful questions. Another gotcha, the contest master talks too much. This is a great opportunity for the contest master to employ his or her active listening skills. You want the audience to get to know the contestants, therefore allow them to speak. So that means the contest master is quiet. Another gotcha, not giving each contestant equal time. All of the contestants are important. You want to give them equal time to respond to the interview questions. Remember, you always want to do what is right and fair. Another gotcha, the contest master looks at the phone too much to determine if it's time to end the interviews. This can be distracting. It might also be perceived that the contest master is not interested in what the contestant is saying. Contestants should have your undivided attention. It is suggested that if you're interviewing the contestants in a group, finish the round of questions, then look at your messages. A final gotcha, not thinking of how to end the interviews. Prepare your comments in advance. Keep them simple and clear. You might also plan to fill the waiting time after the interviews with music or short stretch break, or present slides with announcements or upcoming events. This will be helpful. You want to prepare, prepare, prepare. I will now turn it over to JD, who will talk about determining the winners. JD.
Thank you, Joanne. You collect the ballots, you count the ballots, you deliver the results to the contest chair. Easy peasy, right? So why does this part of the contest go so wrong so often? Please check the chat box. Debbie is going to post the forms that are needed to tabulate and announce the winners. So check them out and listen up to learn what to do with them. It's as easy as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 5 easy steps to determining the winners and an extra step just in case the announcement goes sideways. First, collect the time record sheet, the tie-breaking judges and ballot. That's what the chief judge does. And then the voting judges submit their ballots to the ballot counters. All this happens during the moment of silence. First is the collection of the necessary documents. And then when I'm chief judging online, I have the entire judicial team, the timers and all the judges, plus the ballot counters, adjourn to the ballot room after the final contestant. When the judges complete their ballots, I make sure the timers have texted me their forms and the judges have given their forms to the ballot counters and to me, the tiebreaker judge just to me. Then I dismiss the timers and the voting judges and the tiebreaker judge. Now, as their ballots are received, they just light out of there. If you don't receive them, you have everybody there to say, Judge number 2, are you having difficulty sending your ballot? 2, you follow the yellow brick road. Now the actual ballot count begins, and we'll follow the map of the yellow brick road that's printed right there on the counter tally sheet. The contestants' names are entered in the contestant row at the very top, and the judges' names go in the left column. Advance. 3 is weed out those invalid ballots and disqualified contestants. Next, as chief judge, I instruct the counters to draw a line through the column of any contestant that's been disqualified and to draw a line across the row of any judge whose ballot is invalid. Missing the judge's signature, invalid. Missing the judge's printed name, invalid. More than one name on a line, the same name on multiple lines, or the ballot is illegible, invalid. Now, can I go back to the judge to have him correct his ballot? Nope. A ballot cannot be retro-validated. Now that the counters are left with only the qualified contestants and the valid ballots, we keep following that yellow brick road of easy to follow instructions and mark the tally sheet accordingly. Each first place gets 3 whole votes, second place gets 2 points, and third place gets 1 point. Then the counters add up the number in each column. And if all tally sheets agree, the rule book tells us to recount just to make sure. If the counters disagree, we recount as many times as it takes until all counters reach the same result. Next, we have to break ballot room ties. What if there is a tie? Then, and only then, does the chief judge open the tie-breaking judge's ballot. According to the rule book, quote, the tied contestant who received the highest ranking on the tie-breaking judge's ballot will gain the contested place, and any tied contestants will be ranked in order behind that contestant. End quote. If, like millions of other humans, that instruction is a bit murky, never fear. The District 14 contest training channel on YouTube has a 6-minute breaking ballot room ties video explaining how to break, well, 2-way ties or 3-way ties for first place, for any place. It even comes with pictures in living color. Folks, learn how to properly break ties. Don't allow the wrong contestant to advance to the next level just because you couldn't take 6 minutes out to learn how to do this. And by the way, don't you dare listen to anyone who says that since each contest requires an odd number of judges, there'll never be a tie, so we don't need a tie-breaking judge. That's just not true. Fifth is we submit the results form. Now, when we're all in one accord, the chief judge fills out the results form and delivers it to the contest chair. It shows the winner in the order in which they are to be announced. Third place, second place, and ta-da, first place. Please don't confuse this with the notification of winners forms, which ranks all eligible contestants, not just the top 3, and which goes to the chief judge of the next level contest. These are different forms for different people for different uses. Okay, my friends, that's how winners are determined. But wait, there's more. Next, error in the announcement of winners. Now, it is rare that the contest chair calls out the wrong winners for the wrong places or calls the name of a contestant who's been disqualified, but it can happen. And when it does, there are 3 people who can interrupt the contest to correct that announcement. The timer, who will realize if any of the names is of a time disqualified contestant, and the chief judge and ballot counters, who would know if the names were not read in the correct order. If you're one of these folks and you know the announcement is incorrect, it's your duty to speak up. To put the best spin on this awkward situation, my favorite line is, Mr. Contest Chair, please stop the contest to attend an immediate judicial review. And let's hope the contest chair and the chief judge have discussed this possibility before the contest so that neither becomes that deer in the headlight we've all heard about. When the contest chair is straightened out, he can resume the contest with another great piece of spin. Ladies and gentlemen, there's been a misreading of the winners. The contest ... are ... and ... My job here is done, and it's back to distinguished Toastmaster Linda Rogers.
Thank you, Toastmaster Dirk Schneider. It's now time for us to talk about part 7, announcing winners, ending the contest, debriefing, and following up. When we announce the winners, as JD just said, make sure they are announced in the correct order, and that there is not an error in announcement. Announce them in the correct order in terms of 3rd place, then 2nd place, then 1st place, and that there's not an error in announcement. I actually served as a chief judge last year where the contest master started to read people out in the wrong order, and I had to interrupt and have him look at his text messages again. So it does happen, like JD said. Also, you need to make sure that you mention whether or not there were any time disqualifications. Do not make extraneous comments when you announce the winners. Do not say it was really close and there everyone was just off by 1 or 2 points. No extraneous comments, just announce the winners. And make sure that you have told your Zoom master ahead of time what the order is in the announcements so that the correct person can be spotlighted during the winning announcements. Other gotcha situations when we end our contest event, not giving any thought to your closing comments. We are Toastmasters. We prepare strong end of speeches. So let's prepare properly for ending a contest. Do not thank all who filled a role by name. We want to make sure that our judges are kept anonymous. One thing that I like to do when ending a contest is just say, contest rules prevent me from mentioning everyone by name, but I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to those who had any part in today's contest. Another thing to avoid is encouraging everyone to turn their videos on at the end so you can get a picture. The judges don't want to turn their videos on because then they're no longer anonymous. And then finally, one of the things that you should always do at a contest is mention the next contest level. The area contest end mentions the division contest that will be coming up. The division contest closing statements should mention the district contest, etc. After your event is done and your audience members have left, you should always have a debriefing. You don't want to wait and come back half a week later because people won't remember necessarily everything that's gone on and you won't get 100% attendance. So do your debriefing as soon as your event is done. And make sure that when you do a debriefing that you do not have your contestants and judges in the same room for the debriefing. One thing that I like to do is to have the contestants and the contest master move to a separate breakout room so they can take pictures and the contest master can get comments from the contestants, kind of debrief them. Then the contestants leave the entire event. The contest master goes back into the main room and shares any of those debriefing comments. And finally, make sure that you submit the notification of contest winners form, but before you throw out or shred the counters tally sheet, fill out that notification of contest winners form. As JD said, all eligible contestants are listed on the notification of contest winners. You know who the first, second, and third place winners are because they were announced, but you don't know who the fourth and the fifth and the sixth place winners without looking at the counters tally sheet. So don't destroy that sheet before you fill out the notification of contest winners. It is now time for Debbie Thompson to tell us about contest resources. Debbie?
Thank you, Linda. Next slide. So these are the resources that we have used in our trainings and in our webinars. And I wanted to mention them to you because some of them you may not be familiar with. Of course, the rule book is the document to the far left. Make sure that it is the latest version, however, because every year Toastmasters makes changes. They do denote the changes with a little diamond beside the rule, but make sure you have the most current rule book. Another source of information can be the forms themselves. So you want to make sure for example, the timers form has a lot of information about specific times, when the yellow, green, and red are shown. There's a lot of information there. So look at your forms. They may have additional information. One thing you may not think about as a resource is actually the speech contest frequently asked questions. That is on the Toastmaster International website, and it may answer in a little bit more detail some of the questions that you might have. So that's a good reference point. And then finally, the online and hybrid speech contest best practices. This has a lot of online and hybrid contest rules, recommendations, gotchas, things to consider. And there is a 2022, 2023 version. So that is what I have put into the chat. If you want to take a look at that, it has excellent information for online and hybrid contest. Next slide. We wanted to make sure that you are aware of the YouTube channel training. We have videos. So the way we did it is so that people can look at the video of the role they might be playing or things that they're confused about. So for example, we have, as JD mentioned, a 6-minute video on breaking ballot room ties. That can be very critical because if you don't know how to do that correctly, you can send the wrong person to the next level. So this is imperative if you are going to be a chief judge, understand how to do that. But we have a video for you to watch. It's 6 minutes, and I would encourage you to do that. For every office or role, we have how to chair and master a contest. We have a video for law-abiding judges. We have a video for contestants, a video for chief judges, a video specifically for online, excuse me, and an overall contest video about how to have a fabulous contest. So for example, if you are a contestant, I would highly encourage you to look at the contestant video, but also look at the law-abiding judge video, because there's where you will see exactly what the judges are looking for and what they are ranking when they are looking at the different contests. We do have contest training recordings for all of our Q&A sessions. So those are listed there and you can see those to get additional information. So we do encourage you to listen to these videos and let us know if there's something you don't understand. You may want to add an additional video for you. So anything that you don't understand, please let us know and we will see about getting that information to you. Next slide. I'll turn it over to JD.
Okay, now it's time to answer your questions. So if you would, if you haven't already, take a minute and put your question in chat. You can also, I'm going to open it up so that you can go to the reactions and raise your hand. Any questions? Okay, Miss Blackwell, your hand is raised. What's your question?
Hey, thank you guys. This is terrific. My question, I have two. One has to do with the time. How much, what is the speech time for club, area, and district for the international contest?
And I'm sorry, I don't quite understand. What do you mean by
the
time?
length of your speech? Is it 5 to 7?
It's same from club level, area, division, district, and on up. International humorous and tall tales are 5 to 7 minutes with 30 seconds leeway. Evaluation is 2 to 3 minutes with a 30-second leeway, and that's on both sides. And table topics, you must speak for at least 1 minute and no longer than 2.5 minutes. So it's the same speech time, no matter what level. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. It does. Okay, so thank you. Okay, so the other question I have, and Debbie might be familiar with this question because I ask her this all the time. So you guys said that if you are a contest master, or the person that's running the contest, that person can get credit for their leadership skills. I mean, it can be a level 5 or something that he can use that leadership skill towards. So my question is, does that make sense? I forget what this person is called. Is he the contest chair? Yeah, contest chair. So we don't want our contest chair to not forget to actually take an opportunity to level up. So my question is, how would he do that? Would he also have to do a speech in order to level up, or if it's just putting on the contest and managing the contest all
And
he needs to do?
are you talking about getting credit for a leadership project?
Right.
I'll tell you yes, I think you can. This is my personal opinion. If you're a contest chair, or if the contest chair has turned those responsibilities and master of ceremonies responsibilities over to a contest master, and that contest chair or contest master has that whole team together and works with that team doing everything that the contest chair or contest master does, and if the project requires it, has guidance committees to help them along, I believe that the contest chair or contest master can certainly get project credit. Now, that project might mean to give a speech before and then a speech after. And by golly, it does mean that the contest chair has to actually lead.
Right.
Does any of our team, Debbie, you're on the Pathways team. What
Yes,
can
ma'am.
you say?
I was just going to say, as a VPE or a member, you do need to look at the objectives and the objectives of that particular speech, and it may require that you give a speech after the fact to tell how your event went, to give lessons learned, things like that. So you do need to pay attention to what the project tells you need to do. But by being contest chair and leading that event and having a team, a lot of our level 4 and 5 projects say you have a team of 3 to 4 members, you do an event, you may have to have a vision speech that tells what your vision is for this event. And you may have to have a speech afterward to tell the results. So you do need to look at your project and see what it asked you to do. But by being a contest chair, you've done all the work around it, but you may have an additional speech or 2 that you need to do to finish it up to really, so you're following what the project tells you need to do as far as deliverables. Does that make sense, Sammy?
Yes, it does. Thank you. And that is it for me.
It depends on what the project is. It may be the project is leading an event, or having a successful event, or managing a successful something.
Right. Gotcha.
Look at
Gotcha.
the
I
project.
totally, you got to look at the project because it does tell you specifically exactly what to do for that particular
But
elective.
Being the
Okay.
contest chair is the work that you do around it, and that you have successfully done.
Okay. Thank you.
Did that answer your question?
It does. Am I on mute? Can you guys hear me?
Okay, we've got a
Yes.
question in chat asking about the best way for the contest master to announce the speaking order and how should it be done. That's the first part of this question. We spoke earlier about the contest results form. That's a form that the chief judge fills out after the votes are tabulated and the ballot counters know who the first place, second place, and third place winner are. There's the results form in chat, and that's exactly what how that should be. First of all, there have been no disqualifications on the basis of time, or we're supposed to say how many. So there were no disqualifications, or let you know that there were 2 disqualifications on the basis of time. And then the form goes on and gives third place. You announce the third place. Form next goes to second place. You announce the second place. And then you cue the orchestra for the trumpet fanfare and announce first place. And it's all right there on the form that's given to the contest master or the contest chair.
JD,
Now there's another one. Yeah.
JD, I think she meant speaking order, not speaking
Yes,
result.
speaking order.
Speaking order. Our first contestant is so-and-so, our second contestant is so-and-so, our third contestant is so-and-so. So
Yeah.
speaking order, not results.
Yep.
Okay.
Is that
What,
you got that?
if I could speak up here, what I have done at Contest for announcing the speaking order is after we get past all those opening statements and whoever's actually running the contest master steps up to the plate, then that's the point where the contest master would say, we have 7 contestants tonight. They will be speaking in this order: person 1, person 2, person 3, so on and so forth. You could have a PowerPoint slide with that information that you also show, or you could just say it, but you would say this before the first contestant starts to speak. And then as you announce the people, I always like to say contestant number 1, name, speech title, name. Then when that contestant is done and I'm ready to have the next contestant come up, then I would say contestant number 2, so on and so forth as I go through. Does that answer your question, Barbara?
It does. It really does.
Okay.
Because I've been to several contests and I've been a judge. And you really end up not knowing the speaking order prior to starting the contest. And that could be a little frustrating as you're trying to scribble the names and listen to the
It
speech.
is. And let me tell you, the rule book in the contest master or contest chair's checklist at the back of the rule book, it doesn't say anything about you have to announce the speaking order. However, sometimes the judges don't make it to the judge's briefing. So it's good to read the speaking order, like Linda said, just to make sure that the judges have already prepared so that they don't have to hurry and scribble it when they're learning about it as that speaker is introduced.
One of the other things that you can do is once the contest master has determined the speaking order, because that should be determined during your practice or during your briefing prior to the day of the contest, is to actually communicate that information to the chief judge, who in turn can put that information, speaking order, on the ballot that the judges will be using. It's a PDF fillable form. You can just put those people's names, the contestant names, at the very top and save it, and then send that ballot to your judges so they've got the order sitting at the top of all their forms.
Thank you,
JD,
Linda. Now,
Dwight
I-
has a hand up. JD.
I've got my magnifying glass because I'm old, so I'll be able to see the chat now. Debbie, you wanted to add to that?
I'm sorry. Dwight has had his hand up. He's been patiently waiting.
Hey, this is a great information. I actually learned a lot that I thought I knew, but you guys put on a great show. Just to clarify, you need 2 ballot counters at the club level, and once you go beyond the club level, you need 3.
You need 3 at the district level.
Okay.
That rule was recently changed. It's club, area, and division only need 2 ballot counters.
Okay.
To
Right.
get to district level, you need 3.
And also, this is what I have not done. The ballot counters should be anonymous. Is that right? Based on your presentation you just said?
No, judges.
Did I hear that incorrectly?
I'm sorry, but say that again, Dwight. You speak more Southern than I do, and sometimes I have problems.
Ballot counters, they should not be anonymous, correct?
They don't have to be.
They don't have to be. If you want to really give credit where credit is due, you can do 2 things. You can have an agenda that does say the ballot counters and the timers. You can't do the judges,
Okay.
but you can do ballot counter. But I've never seen anybody, and it's not in the rule book, where you have to introduce them to the audience. My personal opinion is that since we cannot introduce who the judges are, we just do as Linda mentioned and said, y'all are great. It took an entire team, and yay. Did that answer it, Dwight?
It did. And one last question. you talked about debriefing the contestants. What is done in that debriefing with the contestants?
If I could take that one, that's just to get their input on how they thought the contest went and how they thought the
Okay.
preparation before the contest went. For instance, one of the first online contests that we had at the beginning of the pandemic, where we didn't really know what we were doing, afterwards, when the contestants were debriefed, one of them said, I couldn't see the timer at all, and I went over time. And going
Okay.
forward, all of the contestants said, please spotlight the timer. Yes, the judges would be able to know when the green went up and when the red went up and such, but please spotlight the timer because we just can't find the timer and we're all so new at this. So this came out during the debriefing afterwards.
Okay.
Also, they might say, I've had one person say during a debriefing saying, I didn't get any information about the practice. I managed to get my form in, but I never got invited to a practice. So we need to know those sorts of things so we can make sure that our communications, etc., works well from the contestant side.
Okay, thank you, Linda.
Thank you, Dwight.
You're
Okay,
welcome.
we've got another question in chat that says, I get pushback regarding not allowing the chief judge to speak and the timer not to show the timing. Okay. The only thing that the chief judge has to say is yes or no. Has the judicial team been briefed? No, I forgot to do that. So that's ask, and by golly, that answer should be yes.
Go ahead.
The timer, the only time the timer says anything is if we have a site challenged contestant who requests that the timer say 2, 2.5, 3, or whatever the green, yellow, and red times are for that particular contest. In the rule book, it is specified that and I forgot the exact words, but it's the timing lights, the timing signal should be located in an inconspicuous place where the contestants can see it. I don't like to have the timer even acknowledged because guess what? Then everybody's watching those lights. Is he going overtime?
JD, I will tell you exactly what the rule book says. It says the timing devices will not be obvious to the audience. To me, that says you don't demonstrate them. In Zoom, it's very difficult if we spotlight them not to show them, but the rule book does say that it's not obvious to the audience. And so that says to me that we don't, in a person to person, we don't demonstrate the lights. So,
and the way to get around that in a Zoom environment is to practice with your contestants so that they know how to pin the timer, so that it's just the contestant who's going to see the timer.
I saw something at the Division C contest this past weekend where they had the timer actually raise their hand. If you notice right now, Sammy has a raised hand and she's in the upper left-hand corner of my screen. She's kind of pinned there. So in this contest for Division C, they actually had the timer raise the hand, and that put her in the upper left-hand corner of everybody's screen. So then the timer or the contestants didn't actually need to pin anything. And I thought that was a really good solution to let's let the contestants see the timer where it's obvious, but without spotlighting the timer so everybody could see, etc.
I wanted to demonstrate to you. Okay. This is one of the timing backgrounds, and I do prefer the ones that spell out green for our sweet and lovable colorblind Toastmasters. But I want to show you something. When I cover my camera, all you see is that green. It was mentioned earlier, and I believe it. That's so much better and not as distracting. It doesn't distract at all. So that's all you have to do. You can keep your thumb there during the speech if you want. Some cameras, all you have to do is put a piece of transparent tape over it. Some cameras, you actually have to have an opaque something over your camera. There are no more questions in
I
chat.
have a question.
Any-
I have a question.
Wait, hold on a second. There's my Linda Miller. Hey, Linda, you got a
Hi.
question?
Yes, JD, I have a couple. What happened?
You lost her.
You hear me?
We can hear you now.
Okay, what happens when technology freezes during your presentation? How do we address that?
There's an app for that, and Linda Rogers will tell you all about it.
Okay, and the second one is the profile and eligibility forms. If you have them from previous years, are they the same that you can complete and send those if you don't get?
Linda, that's a quick answer. You refill them for, if you want to keep your speaker biography form or speaker profile, that's fine. But the eligibility has to be redone for every contest.
And
Okay,
it actually just changed. I was surprised. It's a 2-pager now, one of the eligibility forms. So,
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So Linda, would you talk to us about what happens in case of technical difficulties beyond our control?
And technical difficulties. So we're talking about, so the contestants' video
happened to
freezes. Right,
what-
the contestants' videos freezes, for instance, and you just freeze on the screen. According to the rule book, if I remember this right, you have an extra 30 seconds to recover from that. But also the contest master and the chief judge should talk ahead of time about how they're going to handle technical issues. And in District 14, the approach has been, we'll give the person 30 seconds to recover. If that doesn't happen within that 30 seconds for your technology to come back, then we'll wait another 30 seconds. If it still hasn't happened, then we'll move you to the end of the contestant speaking order. So you can be working on your issue during that time of the other contestant speaking. And then when it's your turn again, you start at the beginning of your speech. You don't try to start where you dropped off or where you froze. You start at the beginning of your speech and give it again. So
Okay.
that's something that's discussed by the contest master, the chief judge, and then it should be communicated to the contestants during their briefing and the judges during their briefing to let them know how this will be handled.
Okay, thank you. And the last one is being unable to mute. At one of the contests that I participated in a few years ago, I could not unmute. It kept saying that the whoever, the chat master, whoever would not is not allowing you to unmute. And I almost was disqualified.
I've not heard of that before. I don't know what to say, right?
And I think that's where the best practice, and I saw this at Division C contest, where they actually, right before the contestant was brought back from the breakout room,
I
they
saw
were
yes.
it.
asked to say, please say hello. And all the contestants were asked exactly the same thing, exactly the same way, but they were asked to say, hello, contest master. And that was in an effort to make sure that they weren't on mute and that you could see them. And so I think that might help if you're having issues with mute, that they do that right before before they announce you, the name, speech title, name. If they ask you that question and then you respond or you can't respond, then everybody is alerted to the fact that, well, wait a minute, Linda's on mute.
Okay, I guess this is like a Baptist preacher. This is my last question. I was at Division C contest. I thought that was a very well-run contest. It was almost perfect. Mike, when they announced the wrong person, winner, and the woman said, I don't know who it was, she said, relook at the names, something like that. So you guys are saying you don't say relook at the names. You have a statement that's in the contest rule book to say. Is that right, JD?
Yes.
So Linda, I think that was the chief judge who said that to her, realizing
Okay.
that she was announcing it incorrectly. So to JD's point, instead of her saying, you know, stop the contest, she just said, please reread that again, because she realized what had happened. So in essence, I think that was the chief judge that actually asked that question and kind of stopped the process.
Okay. All right. Thank you, guys.
I did. Thank you, Linda. And you may not know, but Linda does not need to be unmuted. All she has to do is hang her head out the window and scream. The entire state will know what she's saying. I was negligent in asking Barbara Morgan if we had answered her questions. Barbara, did we satisfy you?
Absolutely. Thank you. And thank you for this great presentation.
Yes, it is
Are
great.
thank you, Barbara. Are there any other questions? Sammy has asked that I put the timing cards in chat. That'll take me a minute, but I will tell you, if you go to my best friend Google and search for Toastmasters International virtual timing cards, they give you several different choices. And like I said, I prefer the one that spells out the color. You could download them from the resources site at Toastmasters International.
I would like to have a copy of those forms that you guys put in the chat, especially the timer form. I would like to read that.
I can email those to you, Linda.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions?
There are no other questions in chat. So I don't know if anyone else in the audience has anything additional, but looks like we've cleared out the chat for questions.
So I know that Linda is not going to call out our names because we're supposed to be anonymous, but she would like to end this by saying what a great team she has.
Well, before we end, we have to have that final poll.
That's right.
So I am going to share, and Toastmaster Thompson will lead us through our final poll.
All right, everyone, I just launched the poll. If you can answer this. Now that you have attended today's training, do you think you can organize and run a speech contest without gotchas? Yes, absolutely. Maybe, but I still have questions. No, I'm absolutely out of my depth. Help. Okay. All right, let me end the poll and share the results with you. We had 3 people who said yes, absolutely. 2 that said maybe, but I still have questions. And 1 said, no, I'm absolutely out of my depth. Help. And so the team recognizes that some of this information can be overwhelming, but please consider that this team is a resource for you. If you have things come up, if you have questions, if you have a video that you think would help you, please contact Linda or any member of the team and let us know if there's anything that you feel like would help. That's what we're here for.
Thank you, Toastmaster. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Linda. I do have a question. You know, we were talking about the broadband issue. Well, I noticed that you were at our contest, but trying to move a contestant over from the breakout room when it was her turn, she was having issues then where she was freezing. And finally, I was able to get her over there, and I notified the Zoom master that we were having technical difficulties. So is there anything we should do for that in the future?
I think, again, it's just a case of talking about those possibilities when you are planning to understand how you are going to work with things. I think that if you have difficulty moving someone back from a breakout room, that you ought to take a pause to just kind of pause the contest to get that resolved. Or if she's not the last person in the speaking order, maybe move someone else back and then work on her. Again, it's something that you need to talk about before it happens. And I see no problem with pausing the contest to get that issue resolved, even if it requires everybody to disappear for 10 minutes and come back again.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. All right, so let us finish off today's event. I want to thank everyone for coming to today's event, the importance of dodging contest gotchas. And I'd ask you to help spread the word about the contest training team. We have all of those videos out on the District 14 Trainings YouTube channel. We've got the 6 videos or 7 videos that actually talk about various points of contests, along with how to break ballot room ties. We've also been recording the Q&As that we've had. We're recording today's training session, and that will be put on the District 14 Trainings YouTube channel too. But please help spread the word. Think of the song, "If You're Happy and You Know It, Clap Your Hands." But think of these words: if you're happy with this training, tell your friends. If you're happy with this training, tell your friends. If you're happy with this training, then you'll want to share the news. If you're happy with this training, tell your friends. Please do that. Thank you so much for coming to today's speech contest training, the importance of dodging contest gotchas. We are delighted that you came. We hope that this information was helpful. Please spread the news. This concludes today's training event. Thank you for coming.